Welcome back. All right, so some more news of the day for all you fine people for your Friday. It is almost October. It may be October as you're watching this, depending on where you are in the world or what date you watch this video. Don't have to watch it today. So, although my numbers tell me that they're usually watched same day and the next day, I could delete a lot of them. Nobody would notice. Anyways, Scott Harrington is the first player of the tryouts. There's a lot of tryouts who actually gets a contract. So the San Jose Sharks have signed Harrington. Depth on the blue line, good pickup. They also have been one of many teams today to put players on waivers. Watch over this weekend as waiver wire becomes crazy. I'm just documenting some, not every single player that's on waivers, because a lot of them are going to clear, especially early, right? So they waived CJ Cease, who you may remember from Winnipeg. Andrew Agozzino, decent fourth liner in places. I could see him getting picked up, absolutely. So San Jose deciding to move to waive two forwards and sign themselves a defenseman. Dallas waiving some players, including Brett Gardner, who got into some games last year, as I remember. Tanner Caro, who did play some games for them last year. Riley Barber. I think Caro clears because he cleared a lot last year and previous seasons. Barber maybe gets picked up, but again, these guys should clear. On the Philadelphia front, interesting name here, Isaac Ratcliffe. I could see Ratcliffe getting picked up. I'm actually kind of surprised he's on waivers. And Linus Sandin, I wouldn't be surprised to see Toronto at least explore picking up Sandin. They've got Rasmus. Maybe you pick up Linus, see what you can do there, right? And for Toronto with their injury problems, you can always pick up another forward. I'm pretty sure Sandin's a winger. Carter Hart expects, I don't know why I did that like James Bond, but we'll continue. Carter Hart expects to be ready for opening night when asked by reporters. And good. If Philadelphia is going to have any kind of a season that's not as much of a nightmare as last year, they need Hart to be healthy, and they need him to stay healthy. Goaltending depth in Philadelphia is spotty, so we'll see whether or not Carter Hart's ready to go for opening night. He's optimistic he will be. I don't see any reason to argue with him. Also on the waiver wire today, Tampa Bay, a couple of players here of note. Darren Radish and Trevor Carrick. Now, Darren Radish, his brother, is now with the Chicago Blackhawks, so it's possible that maybe the Hawks look to pick him up, right? Trevor Carrick, decent veteran player. Again, just purely a depth forward. May not clear, but Tampa's always got all that luck with players, so maybe he does. Florida's waived Connor Bunnaman, former member of the Philadelphia Flyers. I believe he cleared waivers last year. Washington, Michael Scarbosa, one of the interesting ones for them in terms of players being waived. And again, the waiver wire is going to get crazy between now and the start of the season. Jonas Johansson is the one claim from yesterday. So with the players who were out on the waiver wire yesterday, Johansson, goaltender, waived by the Avalanche, now a member of the Arizona Coyotes. Arizona, of course, has Vejmelka as the starter. Gillies could very well be the backup, but if they pick up Johansson, maybe they're not sold on Gillies. The one thing is Gillies would need to clear waivers before being sent down as well. And so we'll see what happens. We may see a bit of a rotation with goaltenders, but I don't think we're going to see anything major going on there. One topic of conversation today, and I'll go ahead and throw in on this too, the positionless hockey debate, which is being borne out in part because of what's going on in Toronto. I mentioned Mitch Marner being tried on the blue line, and there's a certain part of hockey analytics that says that positionless hockey works. So it's the idea that yeah, you're a center here, but you might be a defenseman for a while here. You might play on the wing, and you can play various positions, which we've seen players do that. Fedorov, obviously, Brent Burns, Dustin Byfuglien. There are numerous players who've played forward and on the blue line. Sometimes they're fourth liners. I think it's somewhat easier with fourth liners to make that work. They're used to playing a role. They're used to having that one role for themselves. But the idea of positionless hockey is fascinating, and I think where it starts, for me personally, is that we are seeing five forwards on the power play a lot. That's why I put that in different color, put it with question mark, because it's something that I've always kind of, for me, I'm a traditional hockey fan, in that when I see five forwards on the ice for a power play, in the back of my mind, all I'm thinking is, if they turn that puck over, it's going to be a shorthanded goal the other way. But the thinking on this is really quite simple. You put your five most talented offensive players on the ice. You have two power play units, so that's 10. And if 9 of those guys are forwards, well, then 9 of those guys are forwards. And it works for some teams, the 5 forwards on the power play. Of course, it started out as four forwards and a defenseman. I always find it funny when I'm watching a hockey game and they say, oh, they got 2 defensemen out on this power play. I will usually say to the television, so it's a traditional power play then. But I do think that we're moving to a time where, yeah, there will be more players who do the positionless thing, where one night they might be a center, the next night they're a defenseman. I think, though, it'll be because of injuries. I think it'll be much like with Toronto. Injuries are necessitating this move. Dahlstrom, out 6 months for them. That's going to hurt the Leafs and, of course, Marlies by extension. Ben is out for 3 weeks. So Jordy Ben should be back relatively early in the season for Toronto. But outside of that, they do have some depth issues on the blue line to address, especially if Muzzin is still slow to come back. Hopefully he's ready for the opening night as well. One thing I do wonder, though, with positionless hockey, could this be something that you have your traditional number 6 defenseman who, is probably a 5 to 10 point player over 80 games. He doesn't really score points. He's out there, he hits, and he does a lot of things defensively. Does that kind of put them out of work? Is that the next... we've seen enforcers go the way of the dodo. Is that depth defenseman may be in danger of that as well? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to come to a point where every single team has players that are forwards and defensemen, but I think we'll see some teams experiment with it, and I think it will be born out of necessity. I think it won't be something that you default to, but it's going to be okay. We've had some injuries. If we're going to get through these injuries, I'm sorry, we're going to need you to play back. There's a lot more to playing on the defense, though, than I think some people give him credit for. I've talked about this with prospects. It takes longer for prospects to really learn the defensive aspects of the game. And there's really no room for error there. And so that's one thing when I'm hearing about forwards being converted to defensemen. It's fine. It can be done in practice, and there's some really talented players that might be really good at it. But there are also some players that I don't think would excel as defensemen, and definitely some defensemen that may not excel as well at forward. But we'll see what happens, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.